They say you never know what you had until it's gone, and nowhere is that more true than with a Sigma male. At first, women may think they can handle his independence, his silence, his refusal to play by the rules. But once he's gone, that's when the regret hits harder than they ever expected. Because losing a Sigma isn't just losing a man, it's losing a force of nature that can't be replaced. In this video, we're diving into the 7 brutal reasons why women regret losing a Sigma male. From the quiet power of his boundaries, to the way he thrives alone, to the shocking truth about what happens when he walks away for good. Every point will reveal a layer of Sigma psychology that most people overlook, until it's too late. And here's the twist. By the end of this list, you'll see exactly why chasing a Sigma is useless, and why the regret women feel after losing one is not just emotional, it's permanent. If you're ready to uncover the brutal truth about Sigma males, make sure to subscribe to UltraWise, tap that notification bell so you don't miss future insights, and drop a comment at the end. Do you think women truly regret losing a Sigma? Or do they just regret losing control? His independence was real, not a game. One of the first realizations that hits a woman after losing a Sigma male is that his independence wasn't some kind of act, test, or game. It was real. Unlike many men who pretend to be detached while secretly craving attention, a Sigma genuinely doesn't build his identity around a woman's validation. He doesn't need constant reassurance. He doesn't revolve his life around her approval. And he doesn't measure his worth through the relationship. This can be confusing at first, even frustrating, because most people are conditioned to expect a certain level of dependence in relationships. But with a Sigma, there's none of that. At the beginning, this independence might even feel intimidating. She may mistake his ability to stand on his own as arrogance, or she might think he's simply playing hard to get. But over time, she realizes he wasn't pretending. He genuinely thrives without relying on her emotionally or socially. And when that relationship ends, the regret stings. Why? Because she finally understands that he wasn't withholding attention out of manipulation. He was living by his own code. He gave his time and affection out of choice, not need. That difference changes everything. Once he's gone, the silence speaks volumes. She sees that he doesn't come running back, doesn't beg for another chance, doesn't collapse without her. Instead, he keeps moving forward with the same strength and focus he had all along. That realization cuts deep, because it highlights the rare quality she lost. A man who chose her without needing her, and who could walk away with his dignity intact. In the end, his independence becomes the very thing that haunts her, because while she may find other men who depend on her or chase her, she won't find another Sigma whose self-worth is so complete that his presence felt like a privilege, not a performance. And that's when the regret sets in. Permanent, undeniable, and impossible to undo. He offered depth few men do. When a woman loses a Sigma male, one of the most painful realizations comes later. She remembers the depth he offered that most men simply can't match. With him, conversations weren't shallow exchanges of small talk or predictable lines. They were layered, thoughtful, and often unforgettable. A Sigma doesn't waste words. When he speaks, there's substance. He listens with precision, analyzes with clarity, and responds in a way that makes people feel truly seen. That kind of presence is rare, and once it's gone, it leaves a void. In relationships, most men either talk too much without meaning or hold back out of fear of vulnerability. Sigmas, however, carry a unique balance. They don't overshare, but when they do open up, their words cut straight to the heart of things. They can move from silence to a single comment that changes how you see yourself or the entire situation. That intensity can feel intimidating in the moment, but it's also magnetic. It creates an emotional bond that women don't often realize they've grown dependent on until it disappears. The same is true for his presence. Even in silence, his energy fills the space. When a Sigma male is with you, he's not distracted by constant validation seeking or superficial chatter. He's present, fully there, observing, listening, engaging at a level that makes you feel important. Most people underestimate how powerful that feels until they no longer have it. When he's gone, every other interaction feels shallow in comparison. And then there's his emotional intensity. Sigmas don't hand their emotions out easily, but when they do, it's raw and real. Women who lose them often realize too late that his quiet love, loyalty, and focus were worth far more than flashy gestures from others. Because, unlike many men who fake depth to impress, a Sigma's depth comes from authenticity. That's why regret creeps in so strongly. After him, other conversations feel empty, other relationships lack intensity, and other men seem distracted or self-serving. She realizes the depth he gave was a gift, one she may never find again. His boundaries were unshakable. One of the harshest lessons women learn after losing a Sigma male is that his boundaries aren't negotiable. Unlike men who bend under pressure or who say no but eventually give in, a Sigma's word is final. When he sets a line, it's drawn in stone, not sand. At first, this firmness can feel frustrating or even harsh, especially to someone used to having influence over others. But later, when he's gone, that same unshakable resolve becomes the very thing she respects and regrets ever testing. Sigma males don't set boundaries as a form of control or punishment. They set them because they know their worth. They understand that constantly compromising for others is the fastest way to lose yourself. So when a Sigma says no to toxic behavior, unnecessary drama, or manipulative games, it isn't up for debate. He won't explain, he won't argue, and he won't soften the blow. He simply stands firm. That level of certainty shocks people who are used to pushing limits and getting their way. For women, this often becomes clear only after it's too late. They test his patience, ignore his limits, or mistake his calm for weakness, only to discover that once a Sigma walks away, he never looks back. Unlike others who might return for closure or second chances, a Sigma's decision to cut ties is permanent. His boundaries are not walls meant to be torn down with persistence. They're safeguards built to protect his peace. The regret comes when she realizes those boundaries weren't barriers against love, but proof of self-respect. They were signs of a man who knew his value, who refused to let anyone take more than he was willing to give. In a world full of people desperate to please, his ability to stand tall in his convictions was rare. And when that's gone, she remembers how his no wasn't rejection. It was strength. Testing those limits may have seemed like a small gamble at the time, but in hindsight, it cost her the presence of a man who valued himself enough not to bend. And that's a loss almost impossible to replace. He thrives without her. One of the most painful realizations women face after losing a Sigma male is that he doesn't collapse in her absence. He doesn't spiral, beg, or chase. Instead, he thrives. While many expect a man to stumble when love or companionship is taken away, the Sigma does the opposite. He uses solitude as fuel. For Sigmas, independence isn't a mask they wear. It's their natural state. When a relationship ends, he doesn't waste time in endless what-ifs or self-pity. Instead, he turns inward, investing his energy back into himself. He sharpens his skills, focuses on his goals, and builds the kind of life that few men can create alone. This transformation shocks women who assumed they were his anchor. They realized too late that he was never dependent on their presence. His growth was always self-driven. This thriving isn't just about financial or career success, though that often comes quickly once his energy is redirected. It's about emotional resilience. While others seek validation or rebound relationships to patch up their wounds, the Sigma uses loss as motivation to rise higher. He turns heartbreak into productivity, rejection into clarity, and absence into strength. And when she sees him stronger, calmer, and more magnetic than ever, that's when the regret cuts deepest. Because here's the brutal truth. While she's struggling with the absence of his presence, he's building a life so rich and self-sufficient that he doesn't need to look back. The man she thought would chase after her is now thriving in ways she never expected, proving that walking away wasn't the end of his story. It was the start of his evolution. And that evolution is the ultimate revenge. Losing him wasn't just losing love. It was losing the chance to stand beside someone who doesn't just survive separation, but becomes stronger because of it. His silence haunts more than words. When a Sigma male leaves, what lingers isn't an argument, a final speech, or even anger. It's silence, and that silence is louder than anything he could have said. Unlike most people who need to explain, defend, or lash out when relationships collapse, a Sigma understands that withdrawal carries more weight. His absence, the missing voice, the lack of messages, the vanishing presence becomes a haunting reminder that she's no longer part of his world. At first it may feel confusing. She might expect drama, accusations, or at least a fight for closure, but instead she's met with a void. That void grows with time because silence leaves space for her own thoughts, doubts, and regrets to echo endlessly. Every time she doesn't hear from him, every time she sees him thriving without her, she's reminded that the connection is truly broken. Words can be debated, twisted, or dismissed, but silence leaves no room for denial. The haunting power of his silence lies in its permanence. It communicates finality without ever needing to be spelled out. It makes her question whether she truly knew him, whether she underestimated his strength, and whether she was the reason he chose to vanish. This emotional weight can be far heavier than any heated argument, because there are no words to soften the blow, no explanation to cling to, and no closure to hold on to. And the irony is, this isn't a tactic, it's simply who the Sigma is. His silence isn't revenge, it's self-respect. But to her, it feels like the most cutting revenge possible because it leaves her wrestling with what she lost and why she'll never get it back. That's why his silence haunts her far longer than his presence ever could. She can't replace his energy. One of the deepest regrets women feel after losing a Sigma male is the shocking realization that his energy is unmatched and irreplaceable. At first, they might believe they can move on easily, finding someone else to fill the space he left behind. But soon the truth sets in. No matter how many men they meet, none of them carry that same mix of mystery, self-possession, and quiet strength. Sigma males radiate an aura that doesn't come from loudness or attention-seeking. It comes from an inner calm, an unshakable independence, and a self-awareness that most men never cultivate. This creates an energy that feels magnetic without trying. A woman who loses that often spends years chasing it again, only to discover it's not something you can fake or replace. While other men may offer charm, humor, or validation, the Sigma's presence feels deeper. Like standing next to someone who doesn't need the world's approval to know his worth. This difference becomes painfully clear in new relationships. She may notice how quickly other men seek validation, how they play games for attention, or how they crumble under pressure. Compared to the Sigma's ability to remain grounded, these new connections feel shallow. The mystery she once found frustrating now becomes the very thing she craves. The silence she thought meant distance now reveals itself as focus. The independence she once mistook for detachment now stands out as unmatched strength. And this is where the regret deepens, because energy isn't something you can demand, manipulate, or manufacture. It's something a person either embodies or doesn't. Once she's experienced the rare stability, depth, and self-mastery of a Sigma male, she realizes that anything less feels incomplete. What haunts her most isn't just losing him. It's knowing that no matter how many men she meets, she won't encounter that same quiet, commanding energy again. It's not just absence, it's an irreplaceable presence she let slip away. He leaves without regret, but she does. When a Sigma male walks away, it's not with hesitation or second-guessing. His decision is final, clean, and rooted in his unshakable boundaries. By the time he chooses to leave, he's already detached emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. For him, it's not about punishment or drama, it's about reclaiming peace. And once that peace is restored, there's no looking back. He doesn't replay the past, he doesn't question his worth, and he doesn't linger in regret. His silence is not only closure for himself, it's the ultimate statement that the chapter is permanently closed. For the woman on the other side, the story is very different. While he moves forward, she's often left stuck in the echoes of what was lost. She replays the memories, questions her choices, and wonders what could have been different. The very strength that drew her to him, his independence, his mystery, his quiet power, now becomes the source of her deepest regret. She realizes that he didn't leave because of weakness or indecision. He left because he refused to compromise his standards or his self-respect. This imbalance is what makes the regret so sharp. While he's already building, thriving, and perhaps even smiling in silence, she's left chasing answers that will never come. His lack of regret feels like salt in the wound because it reveals the truth. She may have been important, but she was never his foundation. He was whole before her, and he remains whole without her. That realization is devastating because most breakups leave space for hope. A call, a chance meeting, a second chance. But with a Sigma male, when the door closes, it's locked for good. His silence isn't temporary distance, it's permanent freedom. And that's where the regret becomes unbearable. She lost not just a man, but a rare kind of presence. And the cruel truth is, he never lost her in the same way. When it's all said and done, the regret of losing a Sigma male always runs deeper than people expect. He's not the type you can replace, manipulate, or circle back to once the game is over. Because while others cling to closure, explanations, or second chances, the Sigma leaves without looking back. And that silence is what makes the absence hit hardest. His independence, his depth, his unshakable boundaries, and his ability to thrive alone are what make him unforgettable. The truth is, most women don't realize what they had until it's gone, and by then, the Sigma is already on to the next chapter of his life, stronger than ever. And that's the brutal reality. Sigma males don't lose in breakups. They evolve. The regret belongs to the ones who underestimated them, not to the Sigma who walked away free. Now, let me ask you, which of these 7 reasons hit the hardest for you? Have you ever walked away like a Sigma and never looked back? Or have you been on the other side, regretting losing someone with that kind of presence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. If you found this breakdown powerful, make sure you hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the more you understand the Sigma mindset, the more you realize the real power isn't in chasing, it's in walking away.